We'll be there, I think, Friday, Saturday.
My name's Corey Bird, and my wife and I, Jessica Bird, we have 4 kids, and we live here in Leadore, and our business is Bird Excavation.
My name's Boyd Foster. I started my business in 2003, and I've been doing stream work for quite a while.
Okay, I'm Dale Peterson, and I own Peterson Metal Products, located right here in Leadore. And we are celebrating our 35th year in business this year. We worked for the Fish and Game, building part of their fish screens and head gates and things like that over the years. So
We're versatile, we do a lot of different things, but this is one of my favorite things to do. We probably put in, over the Lemhi, I'm going to guess about 9 bridges attached to these projects.
So we do quite a few jobs like this, fish work, fish screens, irrigation projects that are generally also tied with water savings projects, and then just some local work for ranchers, but the majority of it is jobs like this. You know, it can vary from year to year, but I'd say probably 60 to 70%.
I have yet to hire a contractor out of this valley, and that's not my decision. We go through the Public Works Department and competitively bid, and we select the lowest bidder, and people that live in this valley are more competitive, and the dollars stay here, and that's the economic benefit is huge.
We employ up to probably 12 people in the summer, and I try to use local people between here and Salmon, and so, you know, hopefully we're returning some of the money that's made here into the community.
well, I was born and raised on a ranch here, and of course it was a small ranch, not big enough for 4 boys in our family. So I went to school, and then I went to work for the INEL, and I always wanted to come back to Leadore. So we moved back to Leadore and created this welding business, and right now we're probably one of the largest employers, full-time employers in the Upper Valley here.
So I grew up here and then went to college and came back for a couple years and thought, you know, there's really not a lot here. So my wife and I, we moved, and we went down to Idaho Falls, and we were down there for 4 years, and that's where we started our business. And then there started to be more of these projects that were coming up, and so we thought, well, you know, let's try it. Let's see if we can go home and you know, make a go of it. And you know, I don't think without some of these projects, I don't know that I'd have been brave enough to, either couldn't afford it or be brave enough just to say, hey, let's go build a house. And because when you build a house here, you're kind of planning on staying for forever. So, you know, either myself or some of the other contractors it just allows us to have some stability and to be able to have, you know, good families that want to be here and provide employment. Not everybody loves it, but you know, we do. So,
you know, when I was a kid growing up here, you could walk down on the river and you could see salmon. And it's nice to see the attempt to get them back and help them with their habitat.
I remember the salmon being here when I was a kid. My dad would take me down there, and we'd often each catch a salmon 2 or 3 times a year. I would love to see that salmon come back.
One thing that you've probably heard, you know, during all these interviews, there's so much pride and ownership in seeing these changes, and I hear it every day. There's just a real commitment of ownership and pride in seeing these improvements in our riparian aquatic systems.
So as well as being a rancher, you know, you find places in the community where you serve. And right now I currently serve as chairman of the board of the Lemhi Regional Land Trust. So that was put together 15 years ago by 4 ranchers. The vision was, we want to protect these ranch lands. We want to make sure that we don't lose those valuable places it's part of our culture, it's part of our heritage, it's all of those things that it identifies us as a valley. So when we started looking at doing projects in the Lemhi, and there's been a number of those done, we kind of thought, okay, how do we ensure that we begin to look at the interests of others, and we're not just looking at our own personal interest. And we thought, okay, let's set down some parameters. And so we set down 3 parameters, and they've served us, I think, really well over an extended period of time. And so the first parameter was, if we were going to do a project, we wanted to make sure that the ranch where the project was going to take place on, or the piece of private property, when the project was completed, was in a better place than it was before we entered into the project. The second thing that we thought was important is we wanted to make sure there was a biological outcome that we could measure. And so if you look at the bridge, that's pretty easy to measure. You say there wasn't a bridge here, there was an old culvert, it was kind of a fish barrier, etc., etc. Now there's a bridge. And then the third thing that we wanted to achieve is we wanted to make sure that the community was better off after it was done. And so if you noticed on that project, as are almost all of the projects, those are done by local contractors. And when I think back when there was a project that was too complicated for our local contractor and it was going to go someone outside of this area, one of the criteria we put on that was that they would have to mentor a local contractor. And since that time, there are local contractors that are now doing those jobs that they didn't have the skills set before. And that creates rural prosperity. And that's the bottom line. When you look at this part of the world, if we just wanted to ranch, grow hay, and those kind of things, we could find an easier place to do it, for sure. But we love this landscape.